Captain Sarah Chun stared at the stars through the window of her ship. 50 years ago, those same stars had seemed like enemies waiting to attack Earth. Now they felt like old friends. The Treaty of Proxima had changed everything. Humans could travel between the stars, trade with alien races, and build new homes on distant worlds. All they had to do was follow the rules. The rules were simple. Humans could not build big warships. They could not claim too much space. They had to ask permission before settling new planets. In return, the great alien powers would protect Earth and her colonies. It seemed like a fair deal at the time. Sarah's ship, the UES Defiance, was one of only 12 ships humans were allowed to have in deep space. It was not a warship. It carried food, medicine, and supplies between human worlds. Sarah had been doing this job for 8 years. She knew every human settlement from Earth to the edge of known space. Today was supposed to be another routine trip to New Geneva. The farming colony grew food for 3 other human worlds. They made the best apples in human space, or so they claimed. Sarah always brought her crew some fresh fruit when they stopped there, but something was wrong. "Captain," called out her communications officer, Lieutenant Park. "I'm getting a distress signal." Sarah moved to Park Station. "From New Geneva?" "Yes, ma'am. It's bad, Captain, really bad." Sarah listened to the message. The voice was broken, full of fear. "This is New Geneva Control. We are under attack." "Repeat, we are under attack. Unknown ships are bombing our cities. They're killing everyone. Please, if anyone can hear this, tell Earth what happened here. Tell them we didn't do anything wrong. We just wanted to grow our crops and live in peace." The message cut off. Sarah felt ice in her stomach. The treaty said no one could attack human worlds without permission from the Hegemony Council. The Council made all the big decisions for this part of space. They had promised to keep humans safe. How long to reach New Geneva? Sarah asked her. "Pilot, 6 hours at full speed, Captain." "Do it and send a message to Earth. Tell them what we heard." The next 6 hours felt like 6 days. Sarah's crew was quiet. They all knew families on New Geneva. Good people who had left Earth to build something better among the stars. When they dropped out of faster-than-light travel, Sarah wished they had never come. New Geneva was burning. The planet's 3 main cities were gone. Where millions of people had lived and worked, only smoke and fire remained. Ships moved around the planet like metal sharks. Sarah had never seen ships like these before. They were long and thin, with weapon ports glowing red-hot from recent use. "Captain," whispered her weapons officer Martinez, "those are Zephyrian ships." Sarah knew about the Zephyrians. They were one of the oldest members of the Hegemony Council. Tall, thin aliens with silver skin and cold eyes. They controlled dozens of star systems and commanded fleets that could destroy entire worlds. Why would they attack New Geneva? Sarah asked, but even as she said it, she knew the answer. The colony had been growing. Last year they had asked permission to settle 2 more continents. The request was still waiting for approval from the Council. "Captain, I'm picking up life signs," Park said. Small groups scattered across the northern continent. "Survivors, take us down," Sarah ordered. "But keep the engines ready. If those Zephyrian ships notice us, we run." They landed near a burned farm. The house was destroyed, but the barn was still standing. Inside, they found 12 people hiding. In a root cellar. Men, women, and children, all covered in dirt and fear. One of them was a boy who looked about 10 years old. His name was Marcus Webb. His clothes were torn and dirty. His eyes held a pain that no child should ever know. "They came without warning," Marcus told Sarah as her medical officer treated a cut on his arm. "The ships just appeared in the sky and started shooting. Mom told me to hide in the cellar with the others. She said she would come back for me." "Where is your mother now?" Sarah asked gently. Marcus looked at the ground. "She didn't come back. None of the grown-ups came back." Sarah knelt down next to the boy. "I'm sorry, Marcus. We're going to take you somewhere safe now." They found more survivors in other places, a family hiding in a cave. A group of farmers who had escaped into the forest. an old man who had watched. His entire town burned from a hilltop. In total, they rescued 43 people from a world that had once held 200,000 as they prepared to leave. Sarah got another message from Earth. Her hands shook as she read it. New Geneva was not the only human world that had been attacked. 5 other colonies had been hit in the past month. Peaceful farming worlds and small mining stations. Places where humans had lived quietly, following all the rules, bothering no one. Now they were all gone. The pattern was clear. The attacks had not been random, they had been planned. The Zephyrians and their allies were removing human settlements one by one. They were being careful about it, taking only small worlds that would not be missed right away. "Captain," Martinez said quietly, "this wasn't about territory disputes or broken treaties. This was about making sure humans don't grow too big." Sarah nodded. She understood now. For 50 years, humans had been the junior members of the galactic community. They had accepted limits on their growth and military strength. They had trusted the alien powers to protect them, but somewhere along the way, the aliens had decided that even a limited human presence was too dangerous. Maybe they had seen how quickly human colonies grew. Maybe they had noticed how smart human children were or how fast human technology improved. Whatever the reason, they had decided to solve the human problem quietly and permanently. The Treaty of Proxima had not been protection. It had been a cage. And now the cage was being cleaned out. As the Defiance left New Geneva's burning atmosphere, Sarah looked back at Marcus Webb. The boy sat in the corner of the passenger compartment, holding a small stuffed rabbit. It was the only thing he had left from his old life. "Captain," Park called from the communications station. "I'm getting a priority message from Earth. It's from the President herself." Sarah took the message pad and read the words that would change everything. "To all human vessels and colonies. Effective immediately, all ships are ordered to return to Earth or the nearest major human world. Do not engage alien vessels. Do not resist if stopped. Say nothing about what you have seen. The Council has been informed of recent events and is investigating. Maintain the peace at all costs." Sarah almost laughed. Maintain the peace? What peace? The peace that had allowed 6 human worlds to be murdered? The peace that had left children like Marcus Webb orphaned and alone? She walked to her captain's chair and activated the ship's internal communication system. "This is the captain," she said. "We are returning to Earth with survivors from New Geneva. When we get there, we are going to tell them exactly what we saw. We are going to make sure the entire human race knows what happened to our people." She paused, looking out at the stars again. They did not look like friends anymore. "The aliens think they can kill us quietly and the rest of the galaxy will never know. They think humans will just accept this and stay quiet like good little junior partners. They're wrong." Sarah ended the transmission and settled into her chair. The journey to Earth would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to plan what she would say to the human government. 2 weeks to prepare for the storm that was coming. Behind her, Marcus Webb still held his stuffed rabbit and stared out the window at the stars. Sarah wondered what the boy was thinking. She wondered if he would ever be able to trust the galaxy. Again, she also wondered if any of them would live long enough to see justice for New Geneva. The peace was already broken. The question now was what humans would do about it. The meeting room in Earth's capital was packed with angry voices. President Elena Vasquez sat at the head of the long table watching her advisors argue. 2 weeks had passed since Captain Chun brought the survivors back from New Geneva. 2 weeks of terrible news from across human space. 7 colonies are gone, said Defense Minister Jackson Torres. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking with rage. Not damaged, gone, 2 million people dead. The Hegemony Council says it was necessary, replied Foreign Minister Williams. They claim our colonies were expanding into restricted zones. Torres slammed his fist on the table. Restricted by who? We followed every rule they gave us. We asked permission for everything. And they still killed our people. President Vasquez raised her hand for silence. What does our intelligence say? Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's top expert on alien behavior, opened her tablet. The attacks were planned months ago. The Zephyrians moved ships into position slowly, quietly. They waited until all the targets were ready, then struck at the same time. "How do you know this?" Williams asked. "Because they were sloppy," Dr. Tanaka said with a thin smile. "They destroyed the colonies but left the communication satellites alone. We recorded everything. Every ship movement, every battle plan, every order." She pressed a button and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed ship movements across human space over the past 6 months. Red lines traced the paths of alien vessels as they moved into attack positions. "They studied us for months," Dr. Tanaka continued. "They learned our patrol schedules, our defense plans, our population centers. This was not a sudden decision. This was extermination, planned and executed with military precision." The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the hologram, watching the red lines close around human worlds like a net. "There's more," Dr. Tanaka said quietly. "I've been analyzing alien communications from the past year. They're afraid of us." "Afraid?" Williams laughed. "They have ships that can destroy planets. What could they possibly fear from us?" "Growth," Dr. Tanaka said. "Human population has doubled in the past 20 years. Our technology improves faster than any other species they've seen. Our children score higher on intelligence tests than most adult aliens. They call us the fast learners in their private communications." Torres leaned forward. "What exactly are they saying?" Dr. Tanaka hesitated, then spoke. "Last month, the Zephyrian High Command sent a message to the other hegemony members. It said, 'The humans must be contained now, while we still can. In 50 years they will be our equals. In 100 years they will be our masters.'" The silence that followed was broken by a soft knock on the door. A young aide entered, looking nervous. "Ma'am," the aide said to President Vasquez, "Captain Chun is here with one of the survivors, the boy from New Geneva." President Vasquez nodded. "Send them in." Captain Chun entered the room, followed by Marcus. Webb, the boy, was wearing clean clothes now, but his eyes still held that terrible old pain. He carried his stuffed rabbit under one arm. "Marcus," President Vasquez said gently, "would you like to tell us what happened on New Geneva?" The boy looked around the room at all the important adults, then spoke in a quiet voice. "They came in the morning. I was feeding my pet rabbit in the garden. The ships appeared in the sky like black clouds. They didn't send any warnings. They just started shooting." Marcus paused, holding his stuffed animal tighter. "Mom told me to hide in the cellar. She said she would come get me when it was safe, but it never got safe. The shooting went on for hours. When it stopped, I could hear people screaming. Then the screaming stopped too." "What did you see when you came out?" Dr. Tanaka asked. "Everything was burning. The houses, the farms, even the trees. There were bodies everywhere. My mom was ... double quotes. Marcus stopped talking and looked at the floor. "The aliens came back the next day," he continued after a moment. "They walked through the ruins with machines that beeped. When the machines found someone still alive, they killed them. They wanted to make sure everyone was dead." The adults in the room looked sick. Williams put his head in his hands. "But why?" Marcus asked, looking up at President Vasquez. "We never hurt anyone. We just grew food and took care of our animals." "Why did they want to kill us?" President Vasquez knelt down next to the boy. "Because they're afraid of what we might become, Marcus. And when powerful people get afraid, sometimes they do terrible things. Are they going to kill everyone on Earth too?" Marcus asked. Before President Vasquez could answer, another aide burst into the room. "Ma'am, urgent message from the Hegemony Council. Ambassador Krilthek is requesting an immediate meeting. He's already on his way to Earth." Torres stood up. "Fast. How long until he arrives?" "His ship is entering our solar system now, sir." President Vasquez looked around the room. "Clear your schedules. We meet with the ambassador in 2 hours. Marcus, Captain Chun, thank you for your courage. Captain, please make sure Marcus gets some food and rest." As they left, President Vasquez turned to Torres. Jackson, I need to know something. Do we have any real defenses? If the aliens decide to attack Earth directly, can we stop them? Torres looked around the room, then spoke carefully. Ma'am, what I'm about to say is classified at the highest level. Most people in this room don't have clearance for this information. Today. Everyone in this room has clearance, President Vasquez said. Tell me the truth. Torres took a deep breath. For the past 30 years, we've been building defenses in secret. The treaty says we can't have warships, but it doesn't say anything about research facilities or defensive installations. We've been very creative with our interpretations. Dr. Tanaka smiled. How creative. We have shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, weapons research stations disguised as mining platforms. We've been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology we could get our hands on. The aliens think we're harmless because they only see what we want them to see. Williams looked shocked. You've been violating the treaty? We've been preparing for the day the treaty failed to protect us, Torres replied. That day is today. 2 hours later, Ambassador Krilthik stood in the same meeting room. He was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow under the lights. His black eyes showed no emotion as he looked around at the human leaders. President Vasquez, he said in perfect English, the Hegemony Council regrets the recent misunderstandings regarding human colonial expansion. Misunderstandings? President Vasquez kept her voice level. 7 colonies destroyed. 2 million people dead. That's what you call a misunderstanding. Unfortunate but necessary, Krilthik replied. Your species was expanding too quickly into sensitive areas. The removals were surgical strikes to maintain galactic stability. Torres stepped forward. You mean murder? Krilthik looked at Torres like he was examining an interesting insect. Your emotional responses are ... predictable. This is why your species requires guidance. You cannot see the larger picture. Then explain it to us, President Vasquez said. Krilthik moved to the window and looked out at Earth's blue sky. Humans breed too fast, learn too quickly, adapt too well. In your short history, you have gone from primitive tool users to star travelers. This rate of advancement is ... concerning. Concerning to who? Dr. Tanaka asked. To species that value stability, Krilthik replied. The galaxy has been peaceful for thousands of years because we maintain proper order. Each species has its place. Each species stays within its boundaries. This creates harmony, and our place is to be wiped out? President Vasquez asked. Krilthik turned back to face them. Your place is to be useful. A small human population, properly managed, could serve valuable functions. Perhaps 10 million individuals, carefully selected and monitored, this would be sufficient. The silence in the room was deadly. 10 million, Torres said slowly, out of 12 billion. The rest would be relocated, Krilthik said. Humanely, of course? President Vasquez stood up. And if we refuse? For the first time, Krilthik showed emotion. His black eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement. Your refusal is irrelevant. The decision has been made. We are informing you as a courtesy, not asking for your permission. Your species has proven too dangerous to be allowed unrestricted growth. He paused, looking around the room again. You are clever animals, but you are still animals. You must be managed like any other livestock. Some of you will be preserved. For study, the rest. He made a gesture that might have been a shrug. President Vasquez walked slowly to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle and spoke without turning around. Admiral Torres? Yes, ma'am? Operation Thunderstrike, ma'am? President Vasquez opened the door and walked out, speaking just loud enough for everyone to hear. Kill them all. Admiral Jackson Torres stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. For 30 years, this place had been humanity's most closely guarded secret. Miles of rock and metal protected the facility from alien sensors. Here, human engineers had been building the tools of war while the galaxy thought Earth was helpless. Operation Thunderstrike is now active, Torres announced to the room full of officers. All Shadow Fleet units are to emerge from hiding and prepare for combat operations. Captain Sarah Chun, newly promoted to admiral, stood next to him. 3 weeks had passed since she rescued the survivors from New Geneva. 3 weeks since Ambassador Krilthik had called humans livestock. Now it was time to show the galaxy what Earth's livestock could do. How many ships do we have? Chun asked. 2,743 combat vessels, Torres replied. Hidden in asteroid belts, disguised as mining stations, buried in ice moons, the aliens never suspected. On the main screen, red dots began appearing across the solar system. Each dot was a human warship coming online for the first time. Ships that had been built in secret, armed with weapons the treaty said humans could never possess. Admiral Chung, Torres said, you'll command the First Strike Fleet. Your target is the monitoring station at Volf 359. Chun nodded. Volf 359 was the aliens' primary surveillance post for human space. A massive installation with sensors that could detect a single ship from 50 light-years away. If humanity was going to fight, that station had to die first. What kind of resistance should I expect? Chun asked. Dr. Tanaka looked up from her computer. She had been studying alien military tactics for weeks, preparing for this moment. The station has a garrison of 500 Zephyrian soldiers and 40 defense ships. They think they're watching primitive humans who can barely build cargo vessels. They're about to learn better, Chun said. Marcus Webb sat in the corner of the command center, watching the adults prepare for war. The boy from New Geneva had refused to leave when the fighting started. He wanted to see what happened to the aliens who killed his family. Marcus, Admiral Torres said gently, are you sure you want to be here? This is going to be very dangerous. Marcus looked up with eyes that seemed much older than his 10 years. I want to watch. I want to see them pay for what they did. Torres nodded. He understood. Sometimes the need for justice burned so hot it could not be ignored. The first ships began launching from hidden bases across the solar system. They were not like the slow, bulky vessels aliens used. Human ships were built for speed and surprise. They could accelerate faster, turn quicker, and hit harder than anything the galaxy had ever seen. Chun's flagship was the UES Retribution, a ship that officially did not exist. It was half the size of an alien dreadnought but carried twice the firepower. Human engineers had spent decades learning how to pack maximum destruction into minimum space. All ships report ready, came the voice from the communications station. Begin the operation, Torres ordered. Across human space, the Shadow Fleet emerged from hiding. Ships that had been waiting for 30 years finally revealed themselves. Mining platforms transformed into weapon platforms. Cargo haulers opened hidden weapon bays. Asteroids split apart to release swarms of fighters, the aliens monitoring human. Space suddenly found their sensors filled with impossible readings. Where there had been a few dozen primitive ships, there were now thousands of advanced warships. At Volf 359, the Zephyrian commander stared at his displays in confusion. Sir, his sensor officer reported, I'm detecting multiple human ships approaching. Our position. How many? The commander asked. I am not sure, sir. The readings don't make sense. It looks like over 300 vessels. The commander laughed. That's impossible. Humans don't have 300 warships. They barely have 300 cargo ships. Sir, they're moving very fast. Faster than our ships can travel. The laughter died. Show me. The main screen filled, with dots moving toward the station. Each dot represented a human ship, and they were coming like a storm of metal and fury. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching Volf 359 grow larger on her screen. Around her, 300 ships moved in perfect formation. Human crews who had trained for years in secret were finally going to war. Admiral, her weapons officer reported, the station is hailing us. Put them on screen. The image of a tall, silver-skinned Zephyrian appeared. His black eyes were wide with shock. Human vessels, you are in violation of treaty restrictions. Return to your designated space immediately. Chun stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the Terran Navy. The treaty is void. You broke it when you murdered our people. You cannot do this, the alien commander said. You do not have the authority to void galactic agreements. Chin smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. We're not voiding anything. We're ending it. There's a difference. She turned to her weapons officer. Target all weapon platforms and shield generators. Prepare to fire. Admiral, the alien said desperately, if you attack this station, it will mean war with the entire hegemony. Good, Chun replied. We were hoping you'd feel that way. The alien's image disappeared as Chun cut the communication. All ships, she announced on the fleet channel. Commence attack. Show them what happens when you mistake mercy for weakness. The human fleet opened fire. The aliens had never seen weapons like these before. Instead of the slow energy beams they used, humans fired solid projectiles at incredible speed. Chunks of metal, accelerated to nearly light speed, struck the station's shields like hammers of God. The shields, designed to stop energy weapons, shattered under the kinetic impact. Human missiles followed, each one carrying enough explosive power to level a city. The station's weapon platforms disappeared in flowers of fire. Alien defense ships rushed to help, but they moved too slowly. Human fighters swarmed around them like angry bees. The alien ships tried to turn to track their attackers, but human vessels could change direction faster than alien sensors could follow. In 15 minutes, the battle was over. The Volf 359 monitoring station, which had watched human space for 50 years, was nothing but glowing debris. Admiral Chun opened a communication channel that would reach every alien receiver in the galaxy. She spoke in perfect Zephyrian, then Korthek, then in 6 other alien languages. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the human species. For 50 years you have watched us. You have judged us. You have decided we were not worthy of freedom. Today, you learn what we really are. She paused, letting her words reach every corner of known space. You called us animals. You said we needed to be managed like livestock. You murdered our children and burned our homes. You offered to let 10 million of us live as your pets. The camera focused on her face, showing eyes as hard as steel. Here is our answer. We are not your animals. We are not your livestock. We are the apex predators of this galaxy, and we have been hiding our teeth for far too long. Behind her, the ruins of Volf 359 station glowed like a funeral pyre. You wanted to see what humanity becomes when you threaten our survival. Now, we become your nightmare. She leaned closer to the camera. Every species that participated in the genocide of human worlds will answer for their crimes. Every ship that fired on our colonies will burn. Every commander who gave those orders will face justice. Marcus Webb watched from the command center. On Earth, for the first time since New Geneva, he smiled. You should have left us alone, Chun continued. You should have honored the treaty. You should have let us live in peace, but you didn't. You chose war. You chose to try to exterminate us. The transmission ended with Chin's final words echoing across the galaxy. Now we choose to exterminate you. Dr. Tanaka looked at her instruments and smiled. Admiral, I'm detecting panic communications across hegemony space. They're trying to recall all their fleets. Torres nodded. Too late for that. How long until our forces reach the next target? 6 hours to Zephyria Prime, sir. Good, Chun. Take your fleet and show them what happens to species that murder human children. Admiral Chun's voice came back strong and clear. With pleasure, sir. All ships, set course for the Zephyrian homeworld. Time to pay a house call. As, the human fleet departed Volf 359, Marcus Webb spoke for the first time in hours. My mom would have liked to see this, he said quietly. Admiral Torres put a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. She's watching, son. They're all watching. And they're proud. The war spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Human fleets appeared in 17 star systems at once, moving faster than alien commanders thought possible. The hegemony had ruled space for thousands of years, but they had never faced an enemy. Like this, Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of her flagship as it approached Zephyria Prime. The planet below was beautiful, with silver cities that gleamed like jewels under their pale sun. It was hard to believe that such a lovely world had given birth to the monsters who destroyed New Geneva. "Admiral," her communications officer called out, "the Zephyrian Defense Fleet is moving to intercept us." Chun looked at her tactical display. 43 alien ships were rising from the planet to meet her fleet of 60 human vessels. The aliens still thought they had an advantage. "What's their formation?" Chun asked. "Standard hegemony battle line, ma'am. Heavy ships in front, support vessels behind. They're trying to create a wall of firepower," Chun almost smiled. Alien tactics had not changed in centuries. They liked big, slow battles where the largest ships won through sheer firepower. They did not understand how humans fought. "Signal the fleet," Chun ordered. "Execute pattern swarm." Human ships scattered like startled birds. Instead of forming a battle line, they spread out in all directions. Some dove toward the planet's surface. Others climbed high above the orbital plane. A few raced straight at the enemy fleet at maximum speed. The Zephyrian admiral watched his sensors in confusion. Human ships were moving in patterns that made no sense. They should have formed their own battle line and engaged in proper combat. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships are everywhere. I can't track their movements." "Focus fire on the largest vessels," the admiral ordered. "Destroy their command ships first." But there were no command ships to target. Every human vessel looked the same. Every captain could think and act on their own. The aliens had no idea which ships were important and which were just fighters. The first wave of human ships hit the alien formation like a hammer. Instead of exchanging long-range fire, they closed to point-blank range and unleashed their weapons. Kinetic rounds smashed through alien shields. Missiles exploded inside ship hulls. In minutes, 6 Zephyrian vessels were destroyed. Then the human ships were gone, racing away before the aliens could respond. The confused Zephyrians tried to pursue, but human vessels were too fast. By the time the aliens turned to chase, the humans were already regrouping for another attack. The second wave came from below. Human ships that had dived toward the planet suddenly rocketed upward, striking the alien fleet from underneath. More Zephyrian ships died in explosions of fire and metal. "This is impossible," the alien admiral muttered. "How are they moving so fast?" His science officer checked his instruments. "Sir, their ships are smaller than ours, but much more powerful. They're using some kind of advanced engine technology we've never seen." The truth was simpler than that. Human ships were designed by engineers who cared more about performance than comfort. Alien vessels had luxury quarters, recreational facilities, and meeting rooms. Human warships had weapons, engines, and just enough life support to keep the crew alive. Admiral Torres had explained it during the planning meetings. "We're not trying to impress anyone with how pretty our ships are. We're trying to kill the enemy before they kill us." The battle above Zephyria Prime lasted only 30 minutes. When it was over, the entire alien defense fleet was destroyed or fleeing. Not a single human ship had been lost. Chen opened a communication channel to the planet below. "This is Admiral Chen of the human fleet. We are not here to conquer your world. We are here for justice. Surrender the officers responsible for the genocide of New Geneva and the other human colonies. You have 1 hour to comply." The response came quickly from the planetary government. "Admiral Chun, this is Governor Thekmal of Zephyria Prime. The actions taken against human settlements were authorized by the Hegemony Council. We were following orders." "Following orders is not an excuse for murder," Chun replied. "You have 59 minutes. Far across the galaxy, other human fleets were having similar conversations. Admiral Martinez attacked the Korthic military base at Rigel 7. Admiral Patel struck the Hegemony supply depot at Alpha Centauri. Every target was chosen carefully. Every attack sent the same message, but not all aliens were enemies. In the Vega system, Admiral Kim's fleet encountered something unexpected. As her ships approached the trading station there, they received a message from the Kithara merchants who ran the facility. "Human ships, this is Trademaster Valcora. We wish to speak with your commander." Admiral Kim appeared on the communication screen. The Cathara was a small, furry being with large eyes and gentle features. They looked more like Earth's rabbits than warriors. "We heard about the attacks on your colonies," Velcora said. "The Cathara people did not support these actions. We tried to speak against them in the council meetings, but we were ignored." "Why should we believe you?" Kim asked, Velcora's large eyes filled with what might have been tears. "Because we know what it's like to lose our children. 300 years ago, the Zephyrians did the same thing to us. They said we were expanding too fast. They destroyed 17 of our worlds." Kim felt a chill. 17 worlds? "We were forced to accept limits on our population and territory. We became junior members of the hegemony to survive. We have been waiting for someone strong enough to stand up to them." Admiral Kim made a decision that would change the course of the war. "Trademaster Velcora, would your people be willing to help us?" "What kind of help do you need?" "Information, star charts, intelligence about hegemony fleet movements, supply routes." Velcora smiled for the first time in the conversation. "Admiral Kim, the Cathara have been traders for thousands of years. We know where every hegemony ship goes and when. We would be honored to share this knowledge with you." News of the Cathara alliance spread quickly through human space. Other species began reaching out in secret. The Delian Federation sent encrypted messages offering medical supplies. The Regelian Confederacy provided detailed maps of hegemony. Military bases. Dr. Tanaka studied the intelligence reports from her command center on Earth. "Admiral Torres," she said, "I think we've been looking at this wrong. The hegemony isn't as united as we thought. Half their member species are there because they were forced to join, just like we were." "How many species are we talking about?" Torres asked. "At least 40% of the hegemony. Maybe more. They've been waiting for someone to challenge the old powers." Marcus Webb, now wearing a junior officer's uniform, looked up from his computer station. The boy had become the unofficial keeper of the colony records, maintaining detailed files on every destroyed human settlement. "Admiral," Marcus said, "I've been tracking the attack patterns. The Zephyrians weren't working alone. The Vorthan Empire provided the ships that hit Kepler colony. The Crystalline Assembly destroyed New Harmony. This was planned by all the senior hegemony members." Torres nodded grimly. "Then they'll all pay the price." Back at Zephyria Prime, Admiral Chun's ultimatum was running out. With 5 minutes left, she received an unexpected message. "Admiral Chun, this is War Leader Kestak of the Korthek Empire." Chun knew about the Korthek. They were a warrior species, proud and strong. Their ships were some of the best in hegemony space. "We have been watching your battles," Kestak continued. "Your tactics are impressive. We respect strength in combat." "Is this a challenge?" Chun asked. "No, Admiral. This is an offer. The Korthek Empire formally withdraws from hegemony space. We will not fight against you. Your people have proven themselves worthy opponents." Chun was stunned. One of the hegemony's strongest military powers had just abandoned the alliance. "Furthermore," Kestak added, "we suggest you target the Nexus station at Aldebaran. It coordinates all hegemony communications. Destroy it, and their fleets will be blind." The communication ended, leaving Chun staring at her screen. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone had expected. Her timer reached 0. The Zephyrian government had not surrendered their war criminals. "All ships," Chun announced, "commence bombardment of military targets. Show them the price of murdering human children." Human ships opened fire on the planet below. Not on cities or civilians, but on military bases, weapon factories, and government buildings. Each explosion was precise, calculated to cause maximum damage to the war machine while sparing innocent lives. As Zephyria Prime burned, Chun received a priority message from Earth. "Admiral," came Admiral Torres' voice. "New orders. Proceed to the Aldebaran system and destroy the Nexus station. Intelligence suggests this will cripple hegemony coordination." "Understood, sir. What about our new allies?" "Work with them. The galaxy is choosing sides, and we want as many as possible on ours. Chun looked out at the stars and felt something she had not experienced since New Geneva. Hope. The war was far from over, but humanity was no longer alone. And the hegemony was learning what humans had always known. United they stood. Divided they fell. The war ended not with a great battle, but with silence. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the ruins of the Nexus station at Aldebaran, watching repair crews work among the twisted metal. The massive communication hub that had coordinated hegemony fleets for 1,000 years was now a broken shell floating in space. Without it, the remaining hegemony forces could not talk to each other. Their empire had become a collection of isolated worlds, each one alone and afraid. 6 months had passed since the destruction of Volf. 359. 6 months of human fleets racing across the galaxy, striking fear into the hearts of those who had thought themselves untouchable. The Zephyrian Dominion had surrendered completely. The Vorthan Empire was in chaos. The crystalline assembly had simply vanished, their ships fleeing to unknown regions of space. "Admiral," came a voice behind her. Marcus. Webb, now 16 and wearing the uniform of a junior intelligence officer, approached with a datapad in his hands. The boy who had hidden in a cellar while his world burned had grown into a young man dedicated to making sure it never happened again. "What's the report, Marcus?" Chun asked. "The last hegemony holdouts have agreed to peace talks," Marcus said. "President Vasquez wants all senior officers back on Earth for the Titan Conference." Chun nodded. The Titan Conference would decide what came next. Humanity had won the war, but winning was easier than building something better to replace what they had destroyed. 3 weeks later, the largest gathering in galactic history took place in Earth's solar system. Ships from dozens of species filled the space around Titan, Saturn's largest moon. The location was chosen deliberately. Anyone who wanted to negotiate with humanity would have to come to the human home system and see the industrial might that had made victory possible. President Elena Vasquez stood at the podium in the main conference hall, looking out at representatives from across the galaxy. Humans sat next to former enemies. Cathara traders talked quietly with Korthic warriors. Delian scientists shared data with human engineers. The galaxy had been turned upside down in less than a year. 6 months ago, President Vasquez began, the Hegemony Council decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed freedom. They chose to solve what they called the human problem through genocide. The hall was silent. Everyone knew what had happened to the human colonies. The evidence had been broadcast across known space, ensuring that future generations would never forget. Today we gathered to decide what kind of galaxy we want to build. We can return to the old ways where strong species dominate weak ones, or we can create something new, something better. Ambassador Krilthek sat in the front row, his silver skin pale with defeat. The proud Zephyrian who had called humans livestock now wore the simple clothes of a prisoner. He would face trial for war crimes along with hundreds of other hegemony officials. The Terran Republic proposes a new galactic government, President Vasquez continued. Not a council of the strong ruling over the weak, but a federation where every species has a voice. Where no one can be exterminated simply for growing too fast or learning too quickly. Trade Master Velcora of the Cathara stood up. The Cathara people support this proposal. We have seen what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of a few. It leads to tyranny and genocide. War leader Kestak of the Korthic Empire rose next. The Korthic respect strength, but we also respect honor. There was no honor in the attacks on human colonies. We will join this new federation. One by one, species that had lived under hegemony rule for centuries declared their support for humanity's vision. The old empire crumbled as its former subjects chose freedom over fear, but not everyone was ready to accept the new order. "This is madness," declared High Counselor Vexthrin of the remaining hegemony loyalists. "Humans are a young species. They lack the wisdom to lead a galactic government. This will end in chaos and war." Admiral Torres, now promoted to head of the new Galactic Defense Force, stood to respond. "Counselor, you're right about one thing. We are young. We've only been in space for a few centuries, while some of you have traveled the stars for thousands of years, but in those centuries, we've learned something you forgot. Torres looked around the room, his voice carrying to every corner. We learned that strength without justice is tyranny. We learned that wisdom without compassion is cruelty. Most importantly, we learned that when you threaten children, you face the consequences. He gestured to Marcus Webb, who sat with the human delegation. This young man watched his family die because you decided humans were growing too fast. He survived to tell the galaxy what you did. Now he helps us make sure it never happens again. Marcus stood up slowly. At 16, he was the youngest person in the hall, but when he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 2 million dead. My little sister was 6 years old when they killed her, Marcus said quietly. She loved rabbits and wanted to be a farmer. Like our parents, she never hurt anyone. She never threatened anyone. She just wanted to grow up and take care of animals. The hall was absolutely silent. The people who killed her said they were protecting galactic stability. They said some lives had to be sacrificed for the greater good. They were wrong. Marcus looked directly at the remaining hegemony representatives. Every life matters. Every child deserves a chance to grow up. Every species deserves the right to exist. That's what this new federation will protect. The vote was not even close. 87 species chose to join the new Terran Federation. Only 12 refused, mostly the core hegemony worlds that had lost the most in the war. Admiral Chiun watched the proceedings from the observation deck above the main hall. Beside her stood Dr. Tanaka, who had been appointed as the Federation's first director of xenological studies. Do you think it will work? Chun asked. Dr. Tanaka smiled. Ask me in 100 years, but I think we have a chance. For the first time in galactic history, the strongest military power is also the one most committed to justice. And if someone tries to break this new peace, then they'll face the same thing the hegemony faced, Dr. Tanaka replied. They'll learn that humans don't just fight for themselves. We fight for anyone who can't fight back. Below them, President Vasquez was announcing the location of the Federation's capital. It would not be on Earth, but on a new world being built specifically for this purpose. A world where every species could live and work together. The ceremony ended with the signing of the Federation Charter. Species that had been enemies for millennia put their names on the same document. The Korthak signed next to the Delians. The Kithara signed next to species they had never even met before. When it was humanity's turn, President Vasquez called Marcus Webb to join her at the signing table. Marcus, she said, your family and all the others who died deserve to be remembered. Will you add their names to this document? Marcus took the pen with steady hands and wrote at the bottom of the charter, in memory of those we lost, and in hope for those yet to come. 10 years later, Admiral Chun stood in the Memorial Garden on New Geneva. The world had been rebuilt, better than before. Human families lived here again, working the same soil where Marcus's family had died. But now Kithara children played with human children in the orchards. Korthak engineers helped design new farming equipment. Delian doctors staffed the hospitals. The memorial itself was simple. A black stone wall with 2 million names carved into its surface. At the center was a statue of a young girl holding a rabbit, representing all the children who had been lost. Marcus Webb, now a full admiral and head of Federation intelligence, stood beside Chun at the memorial. His hair was starting to show gray at the temples, but his eyes still held the same determination they had shown in that command center years ago. Any regrets? Chun asked. Marcus looked at the names on the wall, then at the mixed group of human and alien children playing nearby. Just one, he said. I wish my family could see this. I wish they could see what we built from their sacrifice. Chun put a hand on his shoulder. They can see it, Marcus. Every time a child from any species grows up safe, they can see it. Every time someone chooses peace over war, they can see it. A young Kithara girl ran up to them, holding a flower she had picked from the memorial garden. Admiral Webb, she said in perfect English, my teacher says you helped save the galaxy. Is that true? Marcus knelt down to her level and smiled. No, little one, we all save the galaxy, together. The girl beamed and ran back to her friends. Human and alien children playing together without fear. Admiral Chun looked up at the sky, where ships from a dozen species moved peacefully between the stars. The hegemony had been right about one thing. Humanity had grown dangerous, but they had been wrong about what that danger meant. Humans were dangerous to tyrants. Dangerous to those who would murder children. Dangerous to anyone who believed that might made right. But to those who chose peace, who protected the innocent, who believed in justice for all, humanity was the greatest friend the galaxy had ever known, and that, Admiral Chen thought as she watched the children play, was exactly as it should be.